Okay, good evening, Council. Let's see, do we have everyone here? Not quite, just about. There comes Councillor Thompson. Great. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I would like to confirm that we have quorum and everyone is present. And the clerk has circulated movers and seconders for all motions, so unless there's any objection when the time comes, please let me know. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Wiebe and seconded by Councillor Thompson. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting agenda dated Monday, January 25th, 2021 be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? That carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm declaring on 832, which is the bylaw 2021-9 with the disposition of land block K. For business reasons, I work with a party involved in this transaction. And agenda procession number 1111, confidential report DEV 2021-09 LPAT appeals. And again, business reasons, this matter deals with real estate and I am in that particular business. So I'm declaring on those, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any others? Okay, seeing none, it's my great pleasure to introduce our first invited presentation tonight, our MP from Parry Sound Muskoka and former mayor from the town of Huntsville and good friend, Scott Aitchison. Scott?
Thank you, Your Worship, and hello, Council. I am making the rounds to all the municipal councils throughout Parry Sound Muskoka, and I'm thrilled that today is the scheduled date to visit with all of you. Having enough experience with municipal council meetings and how painfully long they can be, I don't intend to talk for a long time. I've learned to cut it short thanks to the House of Commons timing me, but I did want to let council know about a couple of files that we're working on in my office, namely, the rural internet situation and access to broadband internet that's not only accessible, but that's reliable and affordable. The federal government announced some pretty significant monies, about $1.75 million for their rural broadband fund. And of course, there are lots of local players in our area that are making applications, and my office has been, working with them to make sure that, we're not, duplicating efforts, and we're making sure the applications are complete. And then, of course, we're going to work really hard to make sure that we get some of that money from the federal government to improve the rural internet across the riding. So that's a file that we're spending a lot of time on, actually, and I've spoken about it in the House a number of times as well. The other one, of course, is one that none of you are unfamiliar with, and certainly during my time at the municipality, we talked a lot and did a lot to try to support the development of more attainable housing, and that's another file that I continue to work on. I still entirely haven't figured out with the government's funds how we shake some money loose from there to make sure that Muskoka and Parry Sound get some share of that money as well. There's a couple of specific projects in the region that I've been working on specifically, but I do have a meeting actually coming up Thursday with your own deputy mayor and chair of planning and economic development of the district, Nancy, to talk with Nancy and some senior staff about some very specific things we can be doing and what I can be doing to assist specifically the residents of Muskoka. So those are the couple of big ones. And I, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions about those. I do have another project actually that I'd like to tell council a bit about. And I don't know, Your Worship, because it's not really federally related, I don't know if you'd like me to wait there and see if there are any questions, or if you want me to just continue on with my
Go ahead and we'll leave all questions for the end.
Okay. So the other thing that I'm working on in my spare time is something that is also near and dear to my heart, and something that I started while I was still mayor. And of course, you all are, I think, fully aware of my fascination and passion for the history of Huntsville, particularly. And I've always dreamed of somehow seeing the next volume of Huntsville's history, sort of from Huntsville with Spirit and Resolve. That book, is a tremendous book, but it ends around 1955. But the next volume of the history of the community really does need to be published. And I've, the historical council timelines that I've done, and the mayoral biographies that are on the website that I got help from, a number of ladies, Celia Finley, Jan Fisher, Elspeth Hogue, and Tricia Markle helped write all those. Those projects really were helping to lay the groundwork for what I'm embarking on now, which is to actually get that book written. And so I've reached out to some of the usual players who are more than prepared to help with research. And so I wanted to let council know about it, because I think it's important that you be aware that we're doing it. And also that, we'd like your blessing to do it, I guess. I don't think I need any money, which is also a really nice thing, especially considering the fact that you're about to debate your budget, which is never fun. But I would probably be coming back to council at a later date with a little more detail, because I'll probably need a little bit of help from some of your staff, potentially Sarah at the village, with some, doing some photo searches, those kinds of things. So I wanted you to be aware, and hopefully, we'll have something to publish by the end of the year, or sooner maybe. At any rate, so those are the sort of the highlights of things that I've been working on, and as I said, I'm happy to take any questions that or anything that you think I should be focusing on that maybe I'm not. So, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, so we'll have questions, whether they pertain to Scott's federal projects or his local project. Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Worship, and good to see you, sir. If you're looking for a publisher, let me know. I've got a little experience in that. But my question is about the internet stuff, and personally, I have an issue in my office, which is in town, that has terrible internet service. And I don't know, you mentioned applications. I don't know if I should be lining up for one. But quite frankly, we've been looking for years for a solution. Apparently, there's a fiber optic cable right on the road outside of my office, but it's $40,000 to get it from the road to my building. And my landlord is, of course, not willing to put that kind of dough up. And as a result, during COVID, we've all had to keep going to the office, which has caused some issues, concerns about health. We've got people that have tried to work from home. It's been impossible, so they've had to come back. And of course, now with schools closed and some of my staff having to be caregivers at home for their children, again, they have to work their evenings and weekends just to keep the lights on at home and at the office. And in particular, another issue along that, and sorry to take so long, is one of my staff who's at home with her children is also continually complaining to me about where's the money for my over data charges, which are amounting to somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 a month, which she quite frankly says she can't afford. And so then as a result, putting aside the fact that she can't work from home, she's having trouble educating her children because of the internet access there and the cost of it. So I guess my question is there an application that I should be looking at for my business to send in to you? And my hope is that this happens sooner rather than later, because I don't think this COVID thing's going away for a while yet. And it's just compounding the issues. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Councillor Withey, and good to see you as well. You and I should talk about the book. That's another topic altogether. I do know you have some experience with that. And let me just say, what you've described is sadly remarkably common throughout Parry Sound Muskoka and rural Canada. Like it's bad. And so the objective of the Rural Broadband Fund is accessible, reliable, and affordable internet. And their mission is to make sure that I think the number is 85 to 90% of rural Canadians are connected to a minimum 50 megabyte download speed by 2023. So it's a fairly ambitious objective, and so I'm not convinced that they're going to make it. I don't know if 1.75 billion is enough, frankly, but I can give you examples of some of the local applications where, well, one of the companies that you're a shareholder in, for example, they have a multi-million-dollar proposal that requires a few $1 million of federal investment to make it work. So the applications are specifically for those providers. They're not for individual businesses, but you've given me an idea to look into whether there is any kind of funding available, perhaps through some of the more regional economic development agencies like FedNor or something like that, that might be available specifically for small business. Because your situation, specifically at your business, I don't think that's entirely rare either. And so there may be funds out there for that, but I don't know the answer to that question, and I will dig deeper into that one. And I will be in touch with you. I'll call you.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for that answer. And the company you mentioned, I'm actually working with right now to solve our issue as well, which is possibly, beaming small dishes from buildings to buildings. So I'm glad to see that they're in the lineup for some money too, because it's, as a lot of our issues that come before us at every level of government, unfortunately, the answer seems to come down to money, and anything we can push ahead is appreciated. So thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and hi, Scott. Good to see you and hear your voice again. Scott, I'm intrigued by your continuation of the history of Huntsville post 1955. I think that's a worthwhile project for sure. Had you anticipated, as part of that history, delving into the sporting community here in Huntsville? Because I think you're aware that we have had from that period and prior to, but from that period on, we've had a very vibrant sporting community in all different sports. And I think you could probably do an entire book on that alone if you were if you were so inclined. But had you anticipated having a sports section in that history part, Scott?
The answer is yes, and I think if it's okay with Your Worship and perhaps your chair of I guess the Heritage Committee is part of planning still. Is that how you have that structured? I'll come and make a presentation with a bit of an outline, but it would be similar actually in many ways to Huntsville with Spirit and Resolve, which actually does talk about everything from local government to the economy, cultural activities, sport activities, those kinds of things. One of the things that I'm most excited about with this volume is that it has the potential to be a little more colorful, because some of the characters that made that history so interesting from the mid 60s or the 60s up to today are still around, and they have some good tales to tell. And so I'm hopeful that we could actually litter the book with some pretty entertaining local dialogue. And of course, you all know my remarkable athletic prowess. You know that I'm going to have to talk to Brian an awful lot more about the athletic endeavors of the community, because I'm an expert by any stretch. So we will be talking, Brian, and I hope that you will contribute significantly to the project.
Are there any other questions?
I would be honored to, sir, anytime. Yeah.
Great.
Just a comment, I'm sorry, Your Worship. I'd be honored to help Scott any way I can. Absolutely.
Okay, I think that is it. Everybody's looking at our rather long agenda. So with that, I will thank you very much for zooming in and giving us an update, Scott. And I hope that the next time we do this, we're doing it around the council table again in person. And I wish you well and safe travels to Ottawa later this week, and stay safe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to all the council. Thank you very much. Good to see all your smiling faces again. I do, in fact, miss you all. Have fun with your budget deliberations. Bye-bye.
You, friend.
Okay, we have no deputations tonight, so we will move right into council minutes, and I have a resolution moved by Councillor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting minutes dated December 14, 2020 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. Questions? All in favor? That carries. And I have a resolution moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the special council meeting minutes dated January 11th, 2021 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. Questions? All in favor? And that carries. Okay, reports from committees. We start with the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Wiebe.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, not much to report because we're actually having our meeting this Thursday, which will coincide with the AGM. So that's Thursday at 5:30. If anyone wants to attend or observe, I encourage everyone to participate. So that's coming up.
Okay. Questions? Municipal accommodation tax, tourism update. Not a lot to update other than the fact that the committee is still working, still meeting regularly and working towards plans to help attract tourism back to our community when the time's right. And that will be when we are certainly past lockdown and into a color that suggests that it's safe for tourists to travel here. Are there any questions? Okay, the BIA Board of Management, Councillor Stone.
Yes, the BIA had their AGM last Thursday, and their finances look in excellent order. The members are faring well through this pandemic. And they expressed at the meeting, and I will express on their behalf, that the people of Huntsville have been unbelievably supportive, buying their food and wares from the businesses in the safe way that they are, but the businesses are surviving because of it. So thank you to the entire population of Huntsville. With Streetscape about 65 days out, they have some exciting plans for the old or the usual events and some new ones, working around Streetscape and to do them all in a very safe way. But you'll hear about some exciting events coming up. But as far as I think that's about it for the BIA.
Questions from council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the Huntsville Public Library Board. And the library is one of those facilities that is continuing to operate its library to go services, which does not mean the library doors are open by any means, but patrons are able to put their books on hold online and make their appointments to go and pick up their books safely at the library, I believe by appointment at the curb. And they're staying quite busy even though their hours are reduced. So if there's any questions about the library, happy to try to answer them. Okay, Committee of Adjustment, Councillor Stone.
Aside from a few technical hiccups, there's not really any special notes on any of the files we dealt with.
Questions? No? Okay. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour and seconded by Councillor Withey. Be it resolved that the General Committee meeting minutes dated December 16th, 2020, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. Questions? All in favor? And that carries. December 2020 seems like a lifetime ago almost now. I have a resolution moved by Counselor Thompson, seconded by Counselor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the special general committee meeting minutes dated January 11th, 2021, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that carries. I have a resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Alcock and seconded by Counselor Stone. Be it resolved that the Planning Committee meeting minutes dated January 13th, 2021, and the recommendations contained therein be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. Deputy Mayor Alcock, would you like to highlight anything for that meeting?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll be brief. It wasn't a long meeting, but we approved 2 zoning bylaw amendments, one of which is to create a small engine repair and motor vehicle certification garage on Burnell Road. We approved 2 site plan applications. And of note is one of them that is identified as being on Legacy Lane. But just for those in the public, since that meeting, I've actually been contacted by people in that area who were asking if in fact there's a reason why this development is still considered to be a Legacy Lane address. And it's just because at this point, they haven't changed the municipal address. That will happen as the town continues to work with them on the approvals going forward. But the new municipal address will be from the private road that the applicant is putting in, and the entrance is off of Haynes Road for that. So I just thought it was important to note that because we did approve it, the site plan, but it does appear as Legacy Lane when in fact it's not. We had an update on background information for the appeal of a non-decision on Earls Road, and that was just for committee's information. And finally, we had a healthy discussion on affordable housing strategies, especially in the rural areas. And this was under new business, as Councillor Wiebe thought that it was a good subject that he had some ideas and wanted to put it on the table. And I'm very happy that he did. I think we had a really good discussion at the table. So I think with that, and finally, there was an update on the community planning permit process and ongoing communications and the public engagement strategy, which is now all on the Town of Huntsville's website.
Thank you. Questions, Council? You heard the resolution. All in favor? That carries. Okay, we're moving right along to reports from municipal officers. Just before we start, seeing as the next couple are operations reports, I just want to make mention because Kevin's here and Steve's here, and so that you can take this information back to your staff. I have received so many amazing comments from the public through emails and through telephone calls and just meeting people face to face, thanking the town for plowing the track up at Lions Lookout, for plowing the sidewalk that goes downtown line east towards Forbes Hill. People are out walking it. People are out more this winter, I think, than ever before anyways. But the comments are amazing, absolutely amazing that people are taking the time to write in or call and say thank you. So Steve and Kevin, to all of your staff that's making that possible, please take those thank yous back to them. It's nice to hear when the community's happy about things as well as when they're just unhappy. So let you guys know. Thank you. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Armour. Be it resolved that Council approve the 2021 Roads Capital Work Plan as attached to Report Ops 2021-04, and further that a total expenditure for the Main Street Streetscape project of $3,587,820 as included in the 2021 Roads Capital Plan with the total cost of the project budgeted at $3,692,908, of which $105,088 was incurred in 2020, be approved. And further that the 2021 roads capital work plan and related funding as outlined in report Ops 2021-04 be incorporated into the 2021 consolidated budget. Steve, who's up? You or Kevin on this one?
I will start us off, and then I'm going to let Kevin walk you through the work plan. The reason you're seeing the work plan now is we were waiting for the Main Street tenders to close. So we know exactly how much funding we had to spend on Main Street and how much we had to spend on our road projects this year. And that's what Kevin's going to walk you through. And then at the end of that, I will talk a little bit about the financing. So I will turn it over to Kevin, and I'm not sure if he's going to share his screen to walk you through the report.
Okay, Kevin?
Through you, Mayor Terrier-Ziano, if I could share my screen and can you follow along?
Absolutely.
Let's get this down. The 2021 capital plan, this is our working sheet again, just to remind council, it's constantly going to be changing as jobs and projects are finished and move to the next category. A lot of this, with especially like the brushing, then we'll be moving it to a ditching category and then to the high float category, wherever it needs to go from there. The first part of the column there, 2020, is the Main Street construction, that the $2 million that we put away for the last 3 years to go towards the Main Street project. You'll see in the column here, 2021 proposed work, and then the 2021 identified needs. So the Gull Trail Bridge, that was $300,000. That was last year. It got put over till the spring of this year due to COVID. So we're expecting that one to get going shortly. Brushing, you can see in the kilometer section, we've got about 13 kilometers laid out there, 125,000 put into the brushing works. And then the identified needs to the far side would be the 223. We're looking at the 2021 proposed right now. Under ditching, 350,000 we have put in there, and then we put another 25,000 in there to get some of the rocks out of the way. I see a lot of problems with rocks showing up in the ditches and creating the water to come back out on the road. So we're putting $25,000 in there just to get the rocks out of the way. High float, we've put 1.1 million into high float this year. These are all the roads that we've brushed and ditched the last couple of years. So we're going to try to get caught up on some of those. So we've got 1.1 million put away for that. Gravel, we did a lot of gravel last year. So we're just going to do anything that comes up, any small jobs in-house for this year. Asphalt roads. You can see there's 1.5 million towards Main Street, to the Main Street Kent Park project. 80,000 going towards Bayshore to have it paved. Part of it paved, the other part is being high floated still. 40,000 going towards the design of Greer Road. Greer Road needs quite a bit of work, being an old Highway 11 road. We got to do some ditching. We have some storm work. We got some guardrails, quite a bit of work doing there. So there's 40,000 going towards the design of that. And then Highview Drive, part of it is getting done under a private project. So we've piggybacked on that to get it all done at one time. So we got one consistent road there. Preventative maintenance, we've put 300,000 into preventative maintenance. You'll see in the description column, we're going to do some crack sealing. Crack sealing is when the road is not got to the alligator point, but we just have some large cracks showing up. We're going to put crack seal in, stopping the water from getting underneath the asphalt, which causes potholes in the road to deteriorate too prematurely. So a crack sealing program is going to be undertaken this year, and we're going to be doing a base repair. You'll see a lot of roads that you'll notice them getting wavy, and when they get wavy, they'll be holding water. Then that water seeps into the asphalt, again creating potholes and premature failure of the road. So we're going to be addressing a lot of these things, trying to save these roads and keep our good roads good, so we're not chasing them constantly. Slurry seal, we've done that in the past there. It's mostly on high float roads. So it's going to be putting another sealing coat on top of it again, to keep the water out, keep that road lasting longer. And the surface reclamation, it's kind of more of a rejuvenation program. So that's for asphalt roads. We'll spray that or have someone spray that on the roads. It seals it and it rejuvenates it. And again, road that's 5 to 7 years old, instead of looking 10 to 15 to be replaced, we're looking at giving it another 10 years if you hit it just at the right time. Sidewalks, we've got 100,000 in there. There is a draft sidewalk plan coming to council, I believe on Wednesday. So this is right now some abandoned sidewalks we've addressed the need to get rid of. They're going to become a liability at one time to the town. So we've added them to the list, and a couple of removal and replacements on Center and West Street. So that's the plan this year. But again, that draft sidewalk plan is coming Wednesday to council. 30,000 or 50,000 into culvert replacement. That's any failures we have in the spring, usually with the floods and stuff that come in the spring. We keep that there for emergency repairs. And we're not proposing any bridge work going this year, but we do have some slated for next year. Storm sewer, John and Elm Street, Oakfall outlet there. We've got that in the works to get designed and replaced this year and repaired. Grandview street lights, again, that was proposed last year. We're not proposing doing anything with it this year. We are still looking at some experimental solar street lights to give an experiment on that area. Storm study investigation, nothing for this year, but we're looking at 45,000 for next year. And the Medill yard, 125,000. 100 that's going to go to the study for a new public works facility, and 25 for maintenance around the yard. And then I'll turn this part over to Steve.
Thank you, Kevin. So as you can see, we've identified basically $7.2 million worth of needs that we could do today. But given it the limited funding, we've picked the areas we feel that is best bang for the buck, if you will, on some of the work that we want to get done. The Greer Road, as Kevin mentioned, that's going to be a major project next year, possibly the year after, of about a $1.5 million job. So we wanted to get some design work ready, because we know with the federal government, provincial government, they quite often come out of the gate with design ready project funding. So we want to make sure, because that is a large project, that we do have one that's on the shelf ready to go. If nothing materializes in the next couple of years, we'll certainly have to move that forward anyways. We have applied for some funding too for Main Street, which is still outstanding. We have about $700,000 worth of grant applications out right now, and we've heard no word on that, and probably won't hear till later in the spring. If we're lucky enough, it simply means that we can move forward with some of the other projects that we've had to put off this year. So the total spend this year is $6.4 million. 2 million of that is, as Kevin indicated, it's money we've been putting away through gas tax and through the levy over the last 2 years towards the Main Street. We have the Gull Trail Bridge, which was OCIF funding last year, which was put over for the obvious reasons of COVID. And the OCIF funding, that was the announcement that was out today about, if you've seen the paper, the provincial government giving some Ontario, what do they call it? Ontario Community Infrastructure Funding. It was planned for in the budget. We knew we were getting the numbers. The province once again announced it today, and you'll see it there in 2021 for $337,000. The tax levy this year is just over $3 million, which is put towards capital work. And then there's the 2021 gas tax. So this year, between federal funding, provincial funding, gas tax, and the levy, it's the $4 million. And then we have the reserves we've been carrying, if you will, or the money we've been putting in the bank, and the Gull Bridge, for a total of $6.4 million being spent on road and infrastructure. Now, Kevin, can you just scroll down a little bit? Just to break down the Main Street funding, so you're clear on the resolution and what's being spent. The contract that we did with the contractor, or the tender we issued, is a unit price tender. Which means that everything was priced by cubic meter of fill coming out, cubic meter of material going back in, and things like that. So it's not a fixed price contract. The more we use, the more it would cost, or the less we use, the less it costs. The estimates that they based it on are all from the engineering company that we've been working with, EXP. So they're good engineering, good estimate numbers. So based on that, the total construction cost for the town of Huntsville share with Streetscape is $3.2 million. Out of that $3.2 million, we do have some contingencies and provisional items. We have about $300,000 in contingency money in there, which is quite normal to carry a 10% contingency on a job this size. And we have about $143,000 in provisional items, items that it's sort of like a wish list, or, you know, if you need it, here's what it would cost you, but it's all been factored into the contract. We don't anticipate spending that $143,000. And if things go well, we won't spend the $300,000 contingency. So basically out of that $3.2 million you're looking at there, we have $450,000 of contingency money budgeted in case it's needed, but if not, it will just be returned back into the capital account for spending next year on additional roads. We have the design and the contract administration work with EXP for approximately $300,000, which brings us to a total amount payable to the district of $3.499772. And that coincides with the next report we're going to have, which is the MOU with the district. The reason we have this MOU and the reason we talk about what's payable to the district is we've done this under one tender. It's being done under the tender's guidance, if you will, or the district's guidance, and they're the lead on this. So it's their treasury department that'll be writing the checks. And we have full control over say on the Huntsville portion, but as the contractor builds the district will then turn around and bill us. And for obvious reasons and legal reasons, the district needed an MOU with us just to agree that, yes, this is what we will be paying. And that, like I say, that number 3499 it goes with the next report that you're looking at. On top of that number, we have the Kent Park funding of $300,000 that needs to be added to the total cost for the Main Street. And then there's less $106,000. We've already identified in the contract out of that original 3.2, $106,000 worth of items that we will not be moving forward with on the contract. Some of that we put into the original tender was the storm sewer work on King Street because we weren't sure what shape it was in. So we planned on a full replacement of it. Since the tender went out, we had the survey work or the storm sewer reports come in that says the storm sewer in that area is in great shape and doesn't need to be replaced. So we've pulled items like that out of the contract already for reduction of $106,000. So the total Main Street project engineering, everything in, is at that 3692. So basically $3.7 million is what we're anticipating. As I say, there's $450,000 of contingencies and provisional items in that. Last year, we paid to the district $105,000. That was the design work which EXP was doing for us. So in 2021, it leaves us an outstanding balance of $3,587,820. And as it's seen in the spreadsheets above, $2 million of that is coming from what we have saved and put away. And the 1.5 additional million is coming out of this year's levy, if you will, the 4 million allotment that council has towards the roads. The rest of that 2.5 million is being spent on the list of work that Kevin has just described. So we just wanted to, now that we've got the tendered numbers, now we've got all the numbers on the table, we wanted to show you the numbers, explain them to you, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Council questions? Councilor Armour.
Not so much a question, Council. I just want to thank you for the report, Steve. It really explains a lot, and good job by the team.
Thank you.
Councilor Withey.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question. This is a great report. I'm just wanting to make sure that these are the numbers that were already in the budget before, that has there been any changes since we last looked at the budget at our meeting between now and today?
There's been no changes to what was allotted for capital work. Nothing has changed in that regard. It's the same numbers that were in the budget when you originally presented, and Julia can go through that with you if you like. The only thing that's changed is now we've defined our work plan. Now that we know what the Main Street cost is, now we've defined it, and we've selected what roads require the work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Saved me a lot of work. I noticed on the list, and I would be hypocritical if I didn't mention, I know it's not slated for this year, but the streetlights going up to Grandview Golf Course there, it's the same issue for me as the streetlights that were over the hill at Deerhurst Highlands. They're there. I understand they were put there by the developer and now they're our responsibility. But again, I question the need for them going forward. There isn't even any houses on that road. So when it comes up, and I know isn't this year, I would certainly vote to remove those rather than spend money on replacing them. Again, dark sky friendly and all that stuff as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there just for consistency. Thank you.
Can I just get, before we go to the next question, Councillor Armour and Kevin, if you guys would maybe mute yourselves, just there's a bit of an echo, and I think it's because we have too many people off mute. Thanks. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess just in response to Councillor Withey's comment about the lights on Grandview, there is a lot of walkers there and more development there and more development slated for there. But I had the privilege of driving that road quite regularly, and the amount of walkers on that road at night, it would absolutely shock you. So I think for a safety factor, maybe we should leave that in.
Councillor Withey, do you want to respond?
Yeah, I guess I don't know what days you're going up and down there. I know there's a lot of people walk the golf course when it's not operating, but I happen to be a member there, and there's, I don't see the people when the golf course is operating walking on that road at night at all. And not that I'm on that road a lot at night, but anyways, I guess I would throw that out there to give you a contra view of that one. Thanks.
Director Hernan?
Just for clarification, I believe the section of the road that Councillor Withey is referring to is the North Grandview Drive, which heads up to the big golf course. And I believe the section that Councillor Fitzgerald is probably referring to is the South Grandview Drive. We have two sections there. As Councillor Withey indicated, the north section I think it has one house that access off it, and there's half a dozen lights up through there. And I think that's the section he's referring to. And I understand, Jason, what you're talking about on the other side. And the majority of those lights are in private ownership. The town does own a few of them off the highway.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I just want to make a comment with regards to the streetscape. And like you have received so many compliments with regards to what we're doing at Lions, the Lions soccer field and so on and so forth, opening that up for walking as well as Forbes Hill. I've had so many comments about people that are so excited about streetscape, and they really, really want us to do it upright, do a great job on it, type of thing. And not just the merchants, of course, on Main Street, for sure, they're excited about it, but the general public that feel so warm and in love with our town are really excited about the fact that we're going to be doing this job on streetscape. And again, I just wanted to thank Steve and Kevin and the Public Works gang and everyone involved with this for putting this plan together and trying to expedite this whole thing, hopefully expedite this whole process in just 1 year and maybe a little bit more, type of thing. So just want to make that comment that people out there are really pretty darn excited about this whole thing. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, you've all heard the resolution. All in favor? And that carries. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour and seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that the Director of Operations and Protective Services and the CAO be authorized to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka for the reconstruction of Main Street. Steve,
This is the agreement that I just spoke to, the $3.4 million. Once again, it's just our share of the Main Street cost, and it's just being put into a formalized agreement with the District of Muskoka.
questions? Pretty much goes with the last one. All in favor? And that carries. Okay. I have a resolution moved by Counselor Withey, seconded by Counselor Thompson. Be it resolved that the draft bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Public Transit Stream, attached to Schedule A to Report Corp 2020-02, be approved by Council. And further, that the mayor and clerk be given the authority to sign the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Public Transit Stream Transfer Payment Agreement. Julia, are you going to speak to this?
I can, yes. So this is an agreement that we, or a program that we entered into quite some time ago. And we're successful in obtaining funds up to $270,000 for transit expansion. So this was just to finalize that we have the authority to enter into an agreement with them, and we require a bylaw. I also just want to point out that we don't need to spend these funds until 2027. So there will be more information coming to this before any of this money's been spent on the town's behalf.
Questions, Council? I just have one. Should it be identified to go into reserve if it's something that we don't have to spend until 27?
Through your worship. So we would, if we did receive the money, but we haven't actually received any money yet. So we wouldn't, we probably wouldn't get any money until we started spending it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? That carries. Have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the draft bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the municipal transit enhanced cleaning attached to Schedule A to Report Corp 2021-03 be approved by Council. And further, that the mayor and clerk be given the authority to sign the municipal transit enhanced cleaning transfer payment agreement. Julia?
Again, this one, we are required to put a bylaw in place to enter into the funding agreement. So we have identified those funds that we did receive in 2020 for the enhanced cleaning. And I believe that we'll be able to utilize that. So we have received that, and it'll be spent in the 2020 year end.
Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries. Thanks, Julia. I have a resolution. Be it resolved that, moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that Council approve the amended citizen appointment policy as detailed in Corp 2021-08. Crystal, are you going to speak to this?
The report's there in front of you. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, so just I know Council's probably read the report, but it's basically a request to the library board to have some input into the selection of board members, which just mean they would have an opportunity to review applications. It would still be the mayor's recommendation to council and council's resolution to appoint new board members. So any questions? Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Crystal. Board, when we're talking board, though, it doesn't apply to, say, like Aspen and Hall Board or any of those sort of ad hoc boards?
No, so it would just apply to the library board, yeah.
All in favor? That carries. Okay. I gotta catch up and see where we are in the agenda here. Okay, still on reports. I have a long resolution moved by Councillor Weeb, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Whereas the Town Hall Working Group has been mandated to establish the needs of the Huntsville Civic Center / Town Hall building in its entirety and report back with recommendations by the end of the 2018-2022 term of council. And whereas staff retained Duke Engineering to provide a structural analysis of the Huntsville Civic Center Town Hall building to assist with renovation possibilities. And whereas the structural review received on October 26, 2020 outlined various recommendations for maintenance and future capital work. And whereas municipalities have long provided face-to-face customer service, however, the COVID-19 pandemic has proven the ability to move away from the standard in-office workforce to more of a virtual one, thus potentially allowing for fewer physical workstations in the future. Now therefore be it resolved, the staff be directed to procure an architect to prepare design concepts to replace the front stair structure, prepare design concepts for the interior of the town hall to remove accessible barriers, to address sustainability for the HVAC systems and to address departmental needs. And further that the total design concepts not exceed $16,000, including taxes, and be taken from the council chambers expansion reserve. Who is going to speak to this? Okay.
There we go. I think I'm.
Hang on a sec. Crystal?
Are you good now? Yeah. So I'll start to speak to it.
Okay.
So the Town Hall Working Group is before you today, requesting approval to obtain design drawings for the internal space of Town Hall. This recommendation comes from years of investigation by the working group and considers the historical functions of Town Hall, the services we provide today, the future growth of the municipality, the global shift we have seen in our workplaces due to the global pandemic, accessibility not only for the public, but also for our internal staff, and a focus on sustainability in all aspects of the organization. So to provide you with a bit of history, the Council Chambers Working Group began in 2016 to investigate various concerns with the functionality of the council chamber specifically. While the recommendations of that group were not adopted, in 2018, community services staff brought forward a report outlining building deficiencies and areas of concern. Council then struck a second working group, and the mandate grew to encompass Town Hall building as a whole. The new Town Hall Working Group began to gather information from staff, from user groups, and from the public. And through this information gathering, the working group began to develop a focus of needs. This includes sustainability, which is the building itself, including the foundation, insulation, and roof structure, accessibility needs and requirements, not only in the council chambers, but also within the staff areas of Town Hall, heritage, location of municipal services, and balancing fiscal responsibility with a growing municipality. In 2019, this working group brought forward a recommendation to council to complete a full structural review. Attached to the report before you are the results of this review. I will now turn it over to Chris to speak about where we are looking to go from here.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you, Crystal, and your worship. In response to the report noted above, the Town Hall Working Groups went a step further to better understand the operational budget for the Civic Center building and its relatable municipal projects. This ensured any of our suggestions would not conflict with any predated operational maintenance scheduling. From this information, we suggest that the following be received and considered in our request to obtain a designer for the building. Firstly, with streetscape going ahead and the impact that it'll have on the town hall, discussions arose with respect to the state of the front staircase. It was determined that they needed substantial repair. Rather than just replacing like for like, we concluded that this provided an opportunity to get design concepts, drawings that would better utilize the area in front of the Civic Center. Secondly, in 2025, the roofing membrane for the entire town hall building and HVAC units affecting both the Civic Center and Algonquin Theater are scheduled to be replaced. During this time, staff will be vacated from the building, which would provide an optimum time to address all repairs and changes. Third, to address sustainabilities, for years it has been known that there is little insulation in the building, creating issues not only for staff, but also mechanical heating and ventilation systems. Next is the growing focus of accessibility for the future. While we are functional today, the working group is looking 5, 10, and even 20 years down the road. It should also be noted that the last renovation took place 15 years ago, while the integrated accessibility standards were not brought into effect until 2011. It should be noted that the OBC requires that any alterations within the office area may require compliance within the accessibility requirements. And finally, it is the ability to best prepare financially for the needs of town hall structure. Not only will we be better prepared to cover costs in the 2025 by beginning today, but by developing the plans now, we could place ourselves in the advantage position for any potential grants that may become available. Again, at this time, the working group is requesting approval to obtain design drawings for the interior space of Town Hall and front stair area. These drawings would come back to council for further recommendation and consideration. And at this time, I will now pass it over to Pete Kingshott, sorry.
Thanks, Chris, your worship, and council. I'd like you to note that the report reflects a cost of $150,000 to replace the town hall steps, like for like. The replacement number is actually closer to 200,000. We'd happy to take any further questions from council.
Okay, council. Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chris, Crystal, and Pete. I really like reading the report, and I do support the direction for sure. I think the idea of trying to look at all of these gaps and the needs, and I think that's really thorough. My question is the amount of $16,000. I'm wondering how you determined that amount, because I'm not a contractor, so I don't know, and nor am I an architect. But it seems like what we're asking them to do is, people will probably shoot me for saying this, but is that enough? Seems like we're asking them to do a lot, and I'm sure there's a reason how there's a way you got to the 16. So that's my question.
Chris, do you want to take that?
Sure, I'd be happy to take that question. So through you, Your Worship, we reached out to a local design firm who was very ambitious of actually taking this project on, and is, understands kind of a municipal background and obviously has some interest of the town, right? So that was a cost that they came back with of, we'll look at the whole project, we'll get it done. And ideally be within that fee structure, right? So we did previously have it broken down as the front staircase and the overall. However, by already starting the drawings of the front staircase, and we do have a lot of the original floor plans and data that they need, so they aren't starting from square one. They're able to kind of offset that cost, and they're pretty they feel pretty accurate that it would be around that fee.
Thank you for that. That explains it. So thank you. That's great.
Councillor Stone.
Yeah, I was just going to say something very similar, because I hope that the engineer, we're asking them to come up with some ideas. I hope that they can think outside the box, and I love everything that's being considered, the history and accessibility and this heritage building and all the things we want it to do. But if we're taking the time right now to look at everything inside, I hope the $16,000 is enough to think outside the box. That's all.
Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to the group. This might be putting the cart before the horse. I'm just curious, are you looking at changing the building so this entrance is going to become more viable and used more, or is it just going to be more of a cosmetic fix-up? and safety factor.
Chris?
Through your worship, I believe what we're going to be presenting to the designer is to come up with multiple design suggestions for council. One thing being like for like, another thing looking at the historical pictures that actually our Scott Aitchison brought forward in previous reports, as well as, you know, kind of looking at more of maybe a functional exit only type feel, right? So we will definitely make sure that it's not driven in one direction and there are multiple concepts coming to this table to make sure that all things are being considered.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. I would like to suggest that we don't even entertain the opportunity of like for like. I think we should remove the 70s look that we ended up with there in front of Town Hall. And we should try to incorporate, I guess it would have been helpful if we had the drawings for the proposed accessible work that we're doing between Town Hall and the church, and try and incorporate some of that with what's going to happen at the front. So I think we have an opportunity here to do something really great with the streetscape happening and to make a statement. So let's not entertain like for like, please.
Any other questions, comments? I just have one. I fully support going ahead with this. My only question is, and I know this started as a redesign of the council chambers back some 2 to 4 years ago, but this has blossomed into a redesign and replacement of significant parts of this building. I'm questioning that the $16,000 be taken from the council chamber expansion reserve as opposed to a building reserve. And I don't know whether, Crystal, you can speak to that, or maybe Julia could.
I know that's what we've been using in the past, kind of as our working group, but perhaps I can throw that over to Julia.
Just to get clarification, so we do have the council chamber expansion reserve that was set up for that we put funds into each year for the expansion of that. So I'm not sure, are you asking if there's another reserve, like a specific building reserve? So we do have we have the facility reserve that's for all town-owned facilities. So we haven't been anticipating using the money from that for an expansion.
Yeah, this report has just turned into replacement of front steps, digging up the back, looking at design concepts for accessibility for the entire building, HVAC systems repairs, and roof repairs. So the whole design concept to be coming from a council chamber reserve as opposed to a building reserve just confuses me. Councillor Fitzgerald.
I would have to agree with you. I think the original intent was of the working group was to accommodate the needs for planning, adjustment, council, and the need to create accessibility and more access and greater numbers of the public allowed to be in those chambers. So I tend to agree with you that originally that was a council chamber conversation. So I think maybe we should be in a situation where we're looking at a different reserve or budget item.
Does anybody on council want to make an amendment to the motion to change the to change where the funds are coming from this? Councillor Fitzgerald?
I would be happy to do that. I'm very curious, and I know this is going to be an awkward question for some of our clerks, but since they're part of this working group and are instrumental in what needs to happen moving forward, Are they comfortable with that?
Crystal?
Maybe I can speak a little bit to the reserve. So it's my understanding that the reserve was started back when we started the original working group. So our original working group was focused on council chambers and the concerns surrounding council chambers, mainly accessibility. So when we grew the working group to look at all of Town Hall, we never changed the name of the reserve. So I don't know if maybe that is where some of the disconnect might be, because certainly this the drawings will be looking at council chambers as well, but that might give a little bit of history as to how that reserve came about.
Julia?
I was just going to add to what Crystal said, that I agree with her. That was the original intent. So we can certainly look at renaming that reserve. And if council doesn't want it to go through that reserve, we could take it from the facilities reserve as well.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Thanks for the feedback. I think that this has morphed and grown between, and it has become more than a council chamber issue, and it's a facility issue. So I think we should be looking at a different funding source.
Councillor Weed?
Thank you, Your Worship. But it begs the question, though, if we go through this process, or is there going to be a need for a council expansion reserve to then tackle that issue, or is this going to get all rolled into one process?
Julia?
I was going to suggest that maybe at a later meeting that we do look at that reserve, and if it's not going to be used for that purpose, then we could roll it into one of our capital reserves.
Okay. I'll call the question then. All in favor of the resolution? That carries. A resolution moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcott. Be it resolved that Council approve the Lakeland Holding Limited amended and restated shareholders agreement as contained in Schedule A to report CAO 2021-01. Madam CAO, you want to highlight anything?
Sure, thanks, Your Worship. So the report is fairly detailed. The board and the shareholders have been working on amendments to this agreement for probably just over a year now. So it's great that we're finally to this point. I have outlined in the report where the changes are made, and you can also see in your attached agreement a red line version of where the proposed changes are. So if there are any questions from council, I'd be happy to answer them. Within the delegation of authority bylaw, I do have the ability to do minor amendments, approve them. However, these are fairly substantial. So that's why it's before council this evening.
Council, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries. Okay. Oh, we're already at bylaws. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Schumacher and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2021-2 to 2021-8 inclusive be reported and read the first, second, and third time and finally passes 25th day of January 2021. Bylaw 2020-21-2 Downtown Community Improvement Plan Incentives, 21-3 Borrowing Bylaw, 21-4 2021 Interim Tax Levy, 21-5 1350305 Ontario Limited Aspen Road Rezoning, 21-6 Williamson Burnell Road Rezoning, 21-7 Control and Licensing of Dogs, and 21-8 Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Transfer Payment Agreement. Questions, comments? All in favor? That carries. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour Counselor Thompson, you've declared a conflict on this one, so you've already done what you need to do. Moved by Counselor Armour and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcott, be it resolved that the rules of procedure relating to debate on a bylaw be suspended to allow for discussion on bylaw 2021-9, and further that the rules be reinstated at the conclusion of said matter. And Counselor Thompson has declared a conflict. All in favor? And that carries. So I have a resolution moved by Counselor Withey, seconded by Counselor Armour. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-9 be reported and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 25th day of January 2021. Bylaw 21-9 for the disposition of land, Block K, Plan 503 Burnell. And I'm going to ask Counselor Armour if he wants to speak to this at all.
Thank you, Worship. I appreciate that. I had this pulled originally because there's some concerns brought forward by some abutting landowners, and they had the concerns about the property itself and what was going to be taking place there. But after a good week of discussion with the abutting landowners and the person purchaser, we've resolved the issues now, and they are willing to let the land go as it is. It's as originally passed.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions of council? Counselor Fitzgerald.
I said, good work, Councilor Armour, for resolving those issues. I know that I had several emails and some phone calls, and thank you for your efforts.
Anything else? I'll call a question. All in favor? And that carries. Oh, and Counselor Thompson declared a conflict. I said that, didn't I? Counselor Thompson, you may restart your video. Okay. Now, I have a resolution moved by Counselor Weave and seconded by Counselor Armour. Be it resolved that the town of Huntsville 2021 consolidated budget as presented to council on January 25th, 2021 be approved with a total levy of $16,985,645. And I have an amendment moved by Counselor Fitzgerald, seconded by Counselor Stone. Be it resolved that the following be added after January 25th, 2021, and amended by Report Ops 2021-04, which was the report that we just saw earlier. All in favor of the amendment? And that carries. So the motion is amended, moved by Counselor Weave, seconded by Counselor Armour. Be it resolved that the town of Huntsville 2021 consolidated budget as presented to council on January 25th, 2021, and amended by Report Ops 2021-04 be approved with a total levy of $16,985,645. Questions, or should I say, Julia, do you want to speak to it before I go to questions?
Only if there's any questions. I just it's important to note that the levy doesn't change with those capital projects that have been added or identified.
Are there any questions from council? Councilor Withey.
Thank you, Worship. So where did we land finally? Because I know there was a little bit of a change from when we discussed this last time, if you don't mind.
Julia?
I believe you're referring to the overall impact to the taxpayer. So we can't finalize that yet until the district has finalized their numbers yet, and they'll be finalized in their budget they expect in February. They'll be bringing that forward. So when we looked at it originally, so the town of Huntsville numbers have not changed. Those have still remained the same with a tax rate increase of 0.35%. So that hasn't changed with this revision or with this version. What has changed is that the education we expected to go down, which it has since I've been here. So at least for 15 years, it's been going down. And it didn't this year, so it has remained the same. So taxpayers, they won't see an increase in their tax rate or their education tax rate, but they won't see a decline in that. So overall, we were expecting the impact to the taxpayer, assuming a 3% levy increase for the district, to be about a decrease of 0.24%. And with the education staying the same, it would be an impact to the taxpayer of about 0.5%. So overall, with the town of Huntsville, the change on a $300,000 assessed house would still be around $4 per year.
So more than zero.
So, sorry, through your worship. So at our last budget meeting, it was estimated because we didn't have the education or the district rate. So it was based on what we had originally anticipated.
So you didn't try to find that 0.35 somewhere else to make up for that?
So through your worship, no, we did. We weren't directed to go back and find that.
Councillor Weed?
I was just, thank you through you, your worship. I was just going to say, I think now it falls on the district councillors to try and lower that budget just slightly. So,
Councillor Withey.
Rebuttal. I don't know if that's the direction it's got to go there, Councillor Weeb. My opinion is that we could still go back and work on this to get it to zero. That's what I'd like to see. I doubt I have the votes though.
What kind of cuts would it take to reduce it to zero, Julia?
I just have to be careful because I can't guarantee that it would go down to zero because I don't have the district's their final levy yet.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. I think that originally when this budget came out, there was probably half of council that was going to support it before we had any further discussions or reductions, with the assumption that the educational tax was going to be reduced. I think everyone has worked very hard and diligently to reduce their costs, and a lot of costs have been reduced. I'm very proud of what's been presented for capital projects and improvements. So I'm happy to let this go as presented, and I don't think we need to revisit it.
Councillor Withey?
Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald, there were reductions, but ultimately the taxpayer isn't getting one. And that's where I'm concerned. And I think that the taxpayers, seeing as it was already out in public that we were going to have a negative, likely a negative number, and a number of people reached out to me to say, this is great news. Now we're going back and saying, okay, they don't deserve for us to get another kick at this to get it to at least zero, regardless of what they do at the other levels. I think that perhaps we shouldn't have assumed that education was going down in the first place, but we did that. I still feel that we can do our jobs and work for the taxpayer here and give them a cut too.
I think maybe, I certainly understand where you're coming from, Councillor Withey, because at the end of the day, there's only one taxpayer, but I think in a way we have done our job because we have brought our budget in at a 0.3 of 1% increase, which is, pretty close to zero. If we try to account for the fact that education hasn't gone down, we might find enough savings to do that. Or we may find that district actually brings their budget in less than we're anticipating. So I think we are still the council for Huntsville, and I think we have done a good job with our budget for Huntsville. I've always said I didn't want to use the other levels of government to run a higher budget. So I probably have to stay the course and say I'm not going to use the fact that they aren't decreasing to make ours all right. So I'm going to support this budget as it is.
I'd like to recorded vote, please.
Certainly. Are there any other questions from council? I have one more question, Julia, and it's just, it's on our, the appendix B to the budget, which is our town final capital project listing. I just want to be sure that the amendment that we passed will update appendix B because the capital listing is not currently what the capital plan for public works says. Does that amendment deal with that?
So we'll be attaching to the minutes, the amended budget when we have that. I can share my screen to show you what the amendments are.
That'd be great while we get this recorded vote going.
So you'll see here in the prior budget book, we just had some lump sum amounts for the roads capital projects because we didn't have them identified yet, as Director Hernan had mentioned, because we didn't have the tender completed yet for the Main Street streetscape. So now all those projects that he and Kevin had gone through are now all identified in here, as well as with the funding. So that will all be included in the 2021 budget. And you'll see there's the 3.587820 for the Main Street streetscape.
That's excellent. Thank you. That's the one sheet I want to ensure that we had updated. So,
yeah,
because it is a big ticket item.
Yes.
Are there any other questions from council? The clerk's just preparing the recorded vote resolution. Oh, Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Troziano.
You're on mute.
Yes, can you hear me?
I think Councillor Lee maybe has frozen. Maybe his internet is frozen.
Are you able to hear me, Councillor Weed?
I'm here. I'm here, yes.
Okay, for the recorded vote, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Whitby?
No.
Deputy Mayor Nancy Alcock?
Yes.
Councillor Armour?
Yes.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councillor Schumacher?
Yes.
Councillor Stone?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Troziano?
Yes.
The vote is yay, 8-1.
Okay, that carries. Thank you. Okay, we are moving right along here. All right, I have a resolution moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Whereas the site-specific zoning bylaw amendment for the lands known as Fairview Island Lake of Bays was approved by the order of the local planning tribunal on August 30th, 2019. And whereas Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended states that no person shall apply for a minor variance from the provisions of the bylaw in respect of the land, building, or structure before the second anniversary of the day on which the bylaw was amended. And whereas Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended further notes that subsection 1.3 does not apply in respect of an application if the council has declared by resolution that such an application is permitted, which resolution may be made in respect of a specific application, a class of applications, or in respect of such applications generally. Therefore, be it resolved that the submission of a minor variance application for Fairview Island be permitted. And this, council, is quite similar to one we just passed. It's to give them the permission to apply to the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance. Questions? All in favor? And that carries. Okay, under new business, we have discussion on the ice surface. Now that we're in lockdown, I think it's important that we have a discussion as to whether or not we're going to keep the ice in at the Summit Center indefinitely, waiting for the lockdown to end, or whether or not we should be considering taking the ice out. So I'm going to have Director Babineau weigh in or provide some information for council.
Thank you. Good evening. Through you, Mayor Terziano. I do have some information to share with you for your discussion. For the Don Lock Arena, we are considering at this point taking out the ice earlier than usual. So the utility costs that we've assessed based on that we are running the arena being darker, it's dark. It's actually running warmer, and we're only running the plant 4 hours a day. We've got an approximate utility cost for the 28 days, that would be January 12th to February 10th, at about $4,200. Now that's just a cut down and a pulled back utility cost based on being darker, warmer, and only running the plant for 4 hours a day. The cost to take the ice out is approximately $6,000. However, this is already planned to happen in April, and it's already in the budget. And then the cost to put ice back in is also already in the budget. This would usually happen in August, and that cost is $18,000 to $20,000. The emergency order, if it's extended another 28 days on February 10th or anytime before that, I guess, the cost of utilities will again be another $4,200 for that 28 days. We've been given some information from some of our user groups that might help us make this decision. The Huntsville Minor Hockey Group is looking at extending their season to May 31st if we were able to oblige them. That doesn't mean that we're going to come back in anything less than red. We don't know that. We don't know what color we're coming back in. And they don't know what they'll be allowed to do within those regulations, or whether their parents will want the kids to come back. So they're looking at that season and are relying on us having ice in order to even discuss it further. Figure skating is one of those user groups that can always use more ice and is easily adapted to the regulations that are put forth. Private rentals, we found, were going up in August. So what we're finding is that whether it's floor or ice, we can rent it when, depending on what color we come back in and what regulations that we're adhering to. Other communities are wrestling with the same decision. I do have a number of communities that are leaving their ice in, others that are leaving theirs out. I can provide more information for you. I just tried to give you a few points to be able to make your decision if you wanted to take the ice out now, or do we want to wait until the next announcement and see what happens?
Thanks, Simone. Are there specific questions that aren't clear enough for council before we discuss this? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Just to confirm some numbers with Simone. Thank you, Simone. How much does it cost to take the ice out?
It costs about $6,000 to take the ice out, but that's labor, utilities, that's everything. And we do already have that in the budget because we usually do that in April.
Yeah. Okay. And if I may, Your Worship, it's 18 to 20,000 to put it back in.
That is correct, through you, Mary Terziano. And that also is in the budget and would happen usually around August.
Great.
Right.
Okay. If I may, Your Worship.
Certainly.
I'm just doing some quick math. So it seems that we're about $28,000 if we left the ice in, and we're $24,000 if we take the ice out. We don't know what's going to happen. Groups want to extend their season, and they may want to start earlier. I think for the amount we're talking about, between the difference between $4,000 and $6,000, I'm a strong proponent for leaving it in case the opportunity presents itself that the ice is utilized. So we've experienced a lot of things that have taken a lot of joy and opportunity for people to do things here, and the cost seems minuscule in a way versus everything else to provide that opportunity if in fact it becomes available. So that's where I stand on it.
I think just to be clear, the keys here are, it costs us about $4,200 each month that we leave the ice in while we're sitting there empty or dark, whatever you want to call it, while we're closed. The ice out and the ice back in doesn't really factor in. If we take that ice out, we're not putting it back in until next September, which we budget to do. We're not taking the ice out tomorrow and then putting it back in on March 1st. So the question before us, are we leaving the ice in at about $4,000 a month until we see where this goes? Or are we taking it out and the ice doesn't go back in until September? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. That's sort of the take I had on it as well. I was thinking the figures I saw were $4,200 and so on and so forth. So I guess my position on it would be, let's leave it in for one more month. We'll know in another month probably. This would be closer to the end of February, and if things don't shake out at that point, then okay, we take it out. But meanwhile, for the cost of $4,000 that's costing to keep it there for the time being, I agree with Councillor Fitzgerald on that. That doesn't seem to be an exorbitant amount, that we're taking a big chance on here, type of thing. So, and it might be worthwhile. I mean, we might get another couple of months of usage of it if we do leave it in. So I'd be in favor of leaving it in until maybe things shake out with regards to what color we're coming out at and so on and so forth. So that'd be my position on it.
Okay. Councillor Withey, then Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of points. I'm pretty sure, and I know we're reporting from district momentarily, but I'm pretty sure that the way things are going, this lockdown is going to be extended. In fact, I would be surprised if we even are going to put anything back in the summer or the fall, the way things are going. Certainly there was some news that we heard at Health Services Committee at District last week that sort of pointed in that direction. I do know some owners of some private arenas who have basically just taken it out and said, we got to scrub this. Of course, they've got a profit motive that we don't necessarily have. And I get all the arguments about the issues about people being active, and I'm concerned about putting false hope out there and thinking that anytime soon we're going to be back to any level of normalcy. if we're, and again, it's not a whole pile of money, but if I think I would rather see it out and bring it back earlier in the summer if conditions are if we're allowed to. I honestly don't think we're coming out of this till at least the summer. I don't think with what we're hearing federally about vaccine delays that the Prime Minister's promise of having everybody vaccinated by September, I don't think that's going to happen. I hate to be sort of, gloomy Gus about all this, but this is kind of the reality we're looking at. And remember when we talked back in May, there was people saying, oh, this will be over in a month. And people started gearing up for things. And then it's been nothing but disappointment after disappointment. I think the reality is that we're not doing anybody any favors by keeping it in to try to think that at any time we're going to be switching the lights back on and firing everything back up and we're going to be back to normal by any stretch. So based on all that, I think my vote is to take the ice out. Thank you.
Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. So it's $4,200 a month. We really only have 15 days left till we hear the next announcement, correct? February 10th. So $2,100 to keep the ice in till then. My second thought is, I know what it costs for 28 days. What do we save in the 28-day period? Do you have that amount of money? If we save?
Simone, did you get that?
Yes, through you, Mayor Terziano. I don't have an actual number for you. What we do save is salary, wages, and benefits. We're redeploying our staff to other projects. They're not resurfacing their ice. We're not using the Olympia. We are still having to do daily checks on the plant. There are still regular checks and maintenance that need to be done. We don't see revenue on the ice, so that's probably, but right now with not knowing what color we're coming back to, we don't really know what that number is going to be. We do know that we've talked about renting out as floor space and ice space. We certainly have customers. We just don't know what that number is, and it's hard to even nail it down to a guesstimate.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's so good to hear all of the other comments. I've fluctuated on this one. I hear what Councillor Withey is saying, and I don't disagree with what he has said. Having said that, given the costs that have, in and out and savings and expense, I kind of like what Councillor Thompson said, and maybe it is giving false hope, but I think there's nothing wrong in waiting one more month and waiting for that next step. And I think if we were to do that, then in a month's time, the decision will be clear, one way or the other. And again, I don't disagree with what Councillor Withey said, and maybe it is false hope, but right now, actually, it might be nice to have some hope that some things will change, and the season could be extended, and there are people out there who would like to use it. So it's sort of a mixture. I'm supporting a number of the comments I've heard, but I am supporting waiting one more month.
Councillor Weed.
Thank you, Worship. Simone, through you, Simone, what, assuming I think best case scenarios, we'd be into a red zone. Can you describe what that floor space, the use would look like with ice in or with ice out?
Certainly, through you, Mayor Terziano. If we were to come back in red, we can operate with some of our users in smaller groups. So certainly, orange would be best, or no, it wouldn't be best, actually, it would be better. So it'd be nice to come back in orange. I don't see that happening for sure. Red would be 5 people on the ice, and for some of the minor hockey groups, it's 10, and they can have 10 at either end of the rink, so they can do teams of 10. There are different things that we can do. With ice, we're bringing back the figure skaters, and but with the floor, we're also bringing in the Hornets, baseball. We're bringing in soccer, we're bringing in lacrosse, we're bringing in other groups. So we'll just switch right to spring and use the floor. So it just, it depends on what color we come back and what we're able to do. We certainly did prove that in any color that we're coming back, even in gray, which has a limit of 5, it's still just tighter restrictions, but it's still 5. We can work within that. We can get people through the pool. We can get people through the rink. We can make it work. It just, our users are willing to be flexible with us and work through the details. And we've seen interest at every color. I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Armour?
Thank you, Worship. I think everybody had a chance to speak. I'd like to put a resolution on the floor that we continue to keep the ice in until February 10th for the next announcement. And if we continue in a gray or red lockdown, that we shut the ice, take the ice out. That'll save us having to come back to council in a month or so and discuss this again.
So a resolution that basically says, should the announcement extend the lockdown or have us in, is what the red color is that we, hang on, I've got one here. Seems like somebody knew what you're going to say. I have a resolution that says staff be directed to remove the ice in the Don Lock Arena if the current COVID provincial shutdown is extended past February 11th, 2021. And further, that staff be directed to install the ice back into the Don Lock Arena at the regular scheduled date in August of 2021. I don't know about that second clause in there, but Councillor Armour, other than that second clause, is that what you wanted to move?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that second clause could be removed and we can deal with that later date and just let the status quo play.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Stone? Okay, so now I have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour and seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that staff be directed to remove the ice in the Don Lock Arena if the current COVID provincial shutdown is extended past February 11th, 2021. Questions? Councillor Withey.
Thank you, Worship. I was actually prepared to second that motion. I think that's reasonable. So I would support that with the removal of the last clause. Thank you.
Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, I would agree. And sorry, I wanted to speak in there. I was in agreement with a lot of what Councillor Withey said in regards to we cannot predict. I would like us maybe to debate when the ice does come back in. I'm with Councillor Withey. We could maybe speed things up and start sooner, but also as we're looking to other places around the world and where are those vaccination stations going to be, we might be using our arena spaces for that type of thing. So I want to be able to keep those options open.
Okay. Councillor Weed.
Thank you, Your Worship. So am I to infer from this that if it comes back if we come back into red or gray, that we would then rediscuss this motion, or I'm still a little unclear on that?
Correct. Only if the lockdown is extended do we move ahead and remove it. Otherwise, we'll have a further discussion. Okay, Council, we need 2/3 to carry this because it's not a resolution on our agenda. You've all heard the resolution. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. Thanks for that discussion. We are now moving to council correspondence, which is in your package. And then COVID update, and just a couple brief notes. The province launched on Friday. I'm sure everybody has probably seen something around it. What they've called an influencer campaign, where they've asked all municipalities in Ontario to participate in this, and we have done that by putting some stuff on our Instagram and Facebook page over the weekend. And basically, the provincial message is hashtag stay at home, save lives, stay at home, stay safe, save lives, or hashtag stay home Ontario. So they're asking us to get that message out there and to practice what we preach. So aside from essential services like medical appointments, pharmacies, groceries, stay home. And I'm happy to say that all of our staff is currently home, aside from the 2 or 3 that are required to work in their offices. So thank you to the CAO for ensuring that happened. One of the other messages that the province has put out is that there still is money out there for small businesses. And it's not loans, it's actually grant money, somewhere between 10 and 20,000, that many businesses are able to apply for, and the restrictions aren't that severe. And there's a big pot of money, and the province said they're not getting a lot of uptake on that money yet. So if you are a small business and you are struggling, or have been struggling, and are certainly probably closed now, check that out. It's provincial money, and they have a large pot of money. Any COVID questions? Councillor Withey.
Can I use that money to upgrade my internet?
You can make application.
That would help my business. help my, more importantly, help my employees be safe.
Okay, we're going to the District of Muskoka updates, and let's start with let's start with Deputy Mayor Alcock on community and planning.
Thank you, Your Worship. I really will try and be brief. There are 4 meetings to report on, so really I'm only going to select a couple of things from each. It seems like ages ago, 2 of the meetings were on December 21st, and one of them was our regular Community and Planning Services meeting. And one of the things I want to note, we had a presentation from Marty Weitzel, who is chair of the Muskoka Watershed Advisory Group. And that group was appointed by the province, by the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks post-floods, to look at the whole integrated watershed management in Muskoka. And that report made about 92 recommendations, and it was submitted to the minister. Nothing has come back from the province yet on that, but it has been posted on the district site, as well as a staff report that references that. And there are a lot of really good recommendations. So I think there's a lot of hope out there that, I don't know if you'll remember, ages ago, the province announced $5 million that would go towards watershed management in Muskoka. So the use of that 5 million will be directed by a report such as this. So it's interesting and well worth looking at. So on that meeting, not a whole lot other than the environmental group at the district provided their annual report on the district's water strategy and lake system health water quality monitoring program. So, and some other updates on children's services and housing, and that's it for that one. The second one, same day, was a ceremonial, and it was the district's community services recognition program, which we do annually and usually in person. And it's handing out awards to community people throughout the district who do amazingly good stuff in our community. And this year there were 11. We held the Chair Klink and I were the hosts of the event, and there were 11 recipients, 3 of which were from Huntsville, including Rose and Paul Evans and Matt Hamill. So that was really a fun thing to do, and it worked out really well virtually. The next thing, the Muskoka Watershed Council had its annual general meeting, first time virtually. It was very good. Again, I would say the same thing. The Muskoka Watershed Council's been writing a lot and submitting work to that advisory committee. They have a representative on it, and have posted something called the Muskoka Watershed Integrated Management Plan. And at some point in the future, they will be coming to our council to talk about it. It's I've been incredibly supportive of it. So has the district, and I think it's something that we can get excited about and behind. The last meeting was January 21st. It was our regular CAPS meeting. We had an update from Muskoka Tourism and talking about their annual report, and it was presented by their new executive director, Janet O'Connell. A presentation from Kelly Jones, who talked about the YWCA's Circles program, which is brilliant. A number of updates, but the last thing I did want to mention was committee approved the draft plan of subdivision for Berezik in the town of Huntsville, and that's the one that is off Forbes Hill Drive. There were a couple of questions from other committee members from Georgian Bay questioning our policy around tree cutting and that sort of thing, but it did pass at committee. So I think other than that, I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that. Next, we'll go to Councillor Withey and a health update.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as I alluded to in the previous issue, we were speaking, of course, of COVID and the things that are going on and probably about to occur as well. One of the issues that was somewhat alarming that was spoken of is the condition of our ICUs in the province. And there were some numbers brought out basically saying that, you know, of those of us in smaller centers who may not have COVID or think they have COVID, we're about to get COVID in terms of using up our ICU beds across the province. The numbers that came out said by the middle of February, the percentage of ICU beds usage will be in the area of 111%. And the prediction is by the middle of March, it could be as high as almost 150%. So I know in some areas now, other places I've been speaking to, they have started to receive ICU patients from areas where there's more COVID. And we should all be expecting that coming our way. We had a long discussion as well about what's going on in the Pines as far as COVID and the fact that vaccinations have slowed, and that there are some people that still are employed there that are not taking the vaccination for personal and other reasons. So there was a concern and a discussion about that, about how testing is going, because it seems that the majority of COVID positive tests in the Pines is from employees, in fact. So these are concerning things as well. As I mentioned earlier, the expectation is that lockdowns will be extended until the foreseeable future. So again, sorry for the gloomy news, but this is this is our reality. So we have to soldier on. That's really the highlights. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson, Engineering and Public Works.
You betcha. Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we had, first of all, the first item on the agenda last Wednesday had to do with the Memorandum of Understanding that we'll be discussing in more detail at General Committee on Wednesday. But Public Work or the District Public Works Committee did approve the MOU. And so we'll be going to District Council, I guess, later this month. But then the majority of the, by the way, just as a side, the council, councillors from Bracebridge expressed a lot of interest in what was happening with regards to our streetscape and what was going on. Because I think they're going to be in this similar situation in the next 4 or 5 years when Manitoba Street will probably be subjected to the same kind of thing as what we're experiencing this year coming. But the majority of the meeting dealt with the massive water main break that shut down the town of Bracebridge for 2 days last week. And it had to do with part of the problem was finding the leak in the first place, believe it or not. Usually if there's a leak in a water main or a line somewhere, it shows up or manifests itself on the surface of the ground. This one didn't. It took them almost a day to find the actual rupture. And it happened on the near the confluence of the North and the South Muskoka River, and it was on the side of the road. And so it was not obvious on the surface of any of the roads all over Bracebridge what had happened. And this was not just a leak. This pipe actually fractured. It was a serpentine kind of crack. And when you saw pictures of it, it was like gaps of almost the full length of the pipe of maybe 2 inches. So you can just imagine all that water that was flowing out of there. And it took them, as I said, a full 2 days to find it, or to find it and then replace that particular pipe. So it raised a lot of questions, and of course, part of the questions that were raised too had to do with some kind of monitoring of the system. In other words, this pipe should not have ruptured because it was only put in 1994, and these pipes are basically designed to last 60, 70 years, so this should not have ruptured. But it turned out that what they found out when they dug up the pipe, that this area where the pipe was located had been blasted, and there were some major boulders that had been left in the ground, major rocks that have been left on the ground, which would not pass muster today. Don't know if it would have even passed muster back then. But Commissioner Hahn was of the opinion that maybe what had happened was with the flooding of the Muskoka River over the last couple of years, the groundwater had been raised to such a level that it actually had an impact on moving some of those boulders, some of those major rocks. And this could be, it's not sworn, they don't know, but this was maybe one of the theories of why that pipe would have broken to the degree that it did. So anyway, so a lot of discussion with regards to that. And I know the Public Works crew felt really, really badly about what had happened, but it was just one of those things. So now the question is, okay, what do we do in the future? What can we do in the future to monitor pipes or these kind of situations where we could locate these breaks in such a similar situation in a much quicker fashion? So anyway, so that was quite a long discussion with regards to that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Quickly, our modernization committee had a meeting, pretty interesting one last Monday at district. We put a resolution on the table that saw a very minor reduction in district council from 22 councillors to 18. And it addressed voting, basically removing the weighted vote idea and replaced it with something called a significant majority. So staff are working to see how we identify what issues would require significant a significant majority. So we'll see where that goes. We also reaffirmed that the district chair would continue to be selected by council the way that they have been for years past. We haven't even got an agreement on any of this stuff at committee level yet, and it still needs to get to council. And then we need a district bylaw before it ends up at our table. So as much as the downsizing of district council may impact us someday, I don't know when that day's coming. I'm sure that many of you heard about the unfortunate choice of words used by one of the Lake Association members, which did little to move things forward, is actually probably quite the opposite. So I think we meet again next week. I'll continue to try to keep you updated where that goes and let you know when it might be coming to our table. District Council, of course, most of the stuff you've already heard from the committee levels. The District Council did submit a letter to the province and the Ministry of Health asking them to move the paramedics up in the priority list for vaccinations. I don't even think they got the letter out yet, even if it went by email, but Norm Miller happened to say on a Zoom call today with Minister of Health that paramedics will be vaccinated in phase 1. So letter or no letter, it looks like they're going to vaccinate our paramedics, which is really great for us here because our paramedics have been in the Pines and they've been doing frontline COVID testing. So good that that's going to happen. Brian pretty much told you about the water main break in Bracebridge. There was a debrief on that, obviously, what they're going to do differently the next time it happens. I hope it doesn't happen in Huntsville. That's probably the highlights of District Council. It was a long meeting, but a lot of the information was, or a lot of the items were just for information only. So that takes us to a couple flag raisings. We have the Crime Stoppers. We stopped doing flag raisings at Town Hall.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Yes.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. Can I just make a brief comment?
Yes.
I wanted to just comment that I was listening to the Modernization Committee meeting, and I wanted to commend you for speaking out immediately against those comments. It was well done.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have stopped doing flag raisings at Town Hall while we're under the stay-at-home order, and so our clerks have figured out how to do them virtually, and they are virtually on our website. We have the Crime Stopper one up, and on January 28th, we'll do a Bell Let's Talk virtual flag raising as well. So if you haven't been to the website lately, check it out and you'll see the flags flying. That's the end of our regular council, other than closed session. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 7:33 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matters pertaining to the following sections under the Municipal Act. Section 239, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Confidential report, development 2021-09, LPAT appeals update, Langmaid Island, North Granite Ridge, Burles Road, and 215-2900 Ontario Inc., Hampton Wood, 173 and 194 Clarks Lane, and confidential report CAO 2021-02. All in favor? And that carries. So council, it's time to zoom out and zoom back in under your closed session link. Okay, are we all back? 2, 4, 6, 7.
Everyone who's coming back.
Okay, I have a resolution moved by Counselor Withey, seconded by Counselor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that staff be authorized to proceed with the direction provided in the preceding closed session regarding confidential report CAO 2021-02. All in favor? That carries. And I have a resolution moved by Counselor Schumacher and seconded by Counselor Stone. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2021-10 be received, numbered, and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 25th day of January 2021. All in favor? And that carries. And I have a resolution moved by Counselor Fitzgerald and seconded by Counselor Stone. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 8:35 p.m. All in favor? And that carries.